welcome to a special episode of The Platform. So cool to have Liverpool legend Craig Johnston on the show. His story on and off the field is absolutely inspiring.
Craig Johnston's story comes straight out of the boys' own annual. The young Aussie battler, who in 1975, aged just 15, took himself to England to try to make it in the toughest soccer competition in the world. And make it he did, becoming a key player in the great Liverpool team of the 80s, and collecting in the process 5 English League championships, 3 Milk Cups, an FA Cup winners' medal, a European Cup winners' medal, and 5 charity shields. Craig became a member of one of soccer's most exclusive clubs, one of just 36 players this century to have won the FA Cup English League Championship double. Playing with Liverpool, Craig learned the essence of winning, the crucial importance of teamwork, that the secret to continually winning is never to relent. At Liverpool, each player was only as good as his last game. The constant aim was going one better.
Johnston, buried conclusively. Liverpool content to keep possession. Oh, Russian Caton again, and he's got free. Must go in. Johnston had to do. And Johnston.
Yeah, it's definitely a story for the ages and hopefully a feature doco or even feature film. It's so incredible, and I asked him to jump on Skype and he did that and we filmed this. Mate, the show I do is all about stories, and as you know from me bugging you for a while, I'm a huge Liverpool fan. You were one of my idols when I was a kid, so it's great to speak with you. And I'd love to find out a bit about your story, like, you know, starting out in Newcastle, and how did it all get going?
Like everything in life, I think it was a love, you know, and a lot of people in Newcastle, and I'm up in Newcastle Beach at the moment, so a lot of people love surfing, and a lot of my mates love cricket, a lot of them loved rugby, and there was a small pocket of us that just loved soccer. And just at that time, there was a TV show called Match of the Day, Big Match, on ABC on a Monday night after Till Death Do Us Part. And that's the only time we had soccer, and it was in black and white television.
Yeah.
And the next morning we'd all gather at school, all of us soccer weirdos, because we weren't the normal kids, we were like soccer weirdos, and we'd all we'd gather and we'd talk about the football the night before and the English heroes that was new to all of us.
Right.
And just the concept of a professional sportsman was something that nobody had ever really heard of. So it became a bit of a cult following at Burrigal High School. And all the rest of us, although we all played different sport, soccer became our love. And then it became a cultural breeding ground for some of the area's finest ever football players, soccer players. And I'm talking about the Bogart family, the Cowburn family, the McClellans, you know, who are all legends, the Tredenics. They're all legends of Australian soccer, and they all went to the same school at the same time. And you asked me a question. It was that black and white television, you know, used to drive you mad. And years later, you can do that tune, and everybody knows what you're talking about.
Your story has got to be a movie or a feature doco, because, I mean, when you're a kid, you get injury to your leg that becomes so serious you nearly lose it, right?
Yeah, I got kicked badly in a fight, believe it or not, on the way home from school, and I was only 6 years old, and the leg got worse and worse and infected badly, and it became a form of osteomyelitis, and the doctors actually thought it was polio, so I was admitted into Newcastle Hospital, was just down the road here, 6 years old. It got worse and worse and worse, and the doctor said, look, this is getting more and more inflamed on my left leg. And they said, this leg's probably going to have to come off. So my mum and dad had to come back to hospital, and Mum signed the amputation order to actually have the leg removed. 6 years old, and a famous American doctor, Dr. Glass, was touring the country, and he was a specialist in polio. And he recognized it. He said, "I don't think this is polio, and I think, if you let me operate, we can save the leg." So they did, and thank goodness, because one leg would have slowed me down on the wing, Todd.
Yeah, I don't think you would have been quite the player with one leg.
No, I'd have tried though. I'd have tried.
Yeah, and so that's an amazing moment of like luck that the doctors in Australia that saves your leg. And then there's another incredible moment where you're watching this TV in the hospital room and seeing like Jack Charlton, right?
Well, yeah, it was 1966, and it was the World Cup of Soccer was on, and again black and white television, and again the famous English triumph in 1966 when the cup was hosted in England, and they played, in all the old grounds, Old Trafford and Goodison Park, Everton, and White Hart Lane, and what have you. And the World Cup was coming from England, almost live, probably. And I saw that from the hospital bed, and again, it just bolstered that love of that code, And had we not seen the match of the day, and had I not sort of got so intimate with then World Cup soccer and England winning, and in particular the Charlton brothers, Bobby, who was the captain of the team, and Jack, his big hard brother, centre half. I'd never fallen so deeply in love with the code in the game and what it means to people. That was it was an interesting backdrop because, of course, England was a long, long way away from Nobby's Beach in Newcastle, where I grew up.
He's got courage by the cartful, this Aussie from Newcastle. The Poms call him down under's pride and joy. At his feet the ball is magic, he near trips the light fantastic as he treats that ball of leather like a toy. And it's not just any fool who can play for Liverpool. They won the Euro Cup, and that's a plum. Our boy could play for England, but Jono, he's fair dinkum. He won't sign the form that says that he's a Pom. And when they cheer him up the field, if you ask him how's it feel, he'll answer with this little Aussie song. I feel like a Tooheys, I feel like a Tooheys, I feel like a Tooheys or two.
Man, it's incredible. So you think about like when we manifest dreams in our life, and you as a young boy watching this show and then getting the ambition to write to these clubs, and then you're 15 years of age, your parents sell their house and you go over to chase this dream.
Yeah, but it started when I was 6, as I said, so it was a dream and a vision and a crazy idea, everyone said, even my parents, but I was hooked on the dream, and Mum and Dad couldn't really afford, they weren't that rich, to send me over, so they sold their house and moved to a smaller one to finance the trip. So they believed in my belief, and again, Mum very cleverly used her school teacher skills to say, well, if you come first in maths, science and English after your injury, then we'll pay for your trip to be a soccer player, she said jokingly, and winked to my dad at the same time. So Mum was very clever, because I then studied like no kid had ever studied before to get the grades so that I could go. And although I didn't come first in all the subjects, I did so well that Mum and Dad had to do their end of the bargain. So it is a fairy story. It was a dream. It did come true, and I still can't believe it.
It's amazing because it's a fairy tale and everything, but then it turns into a nightmare pretty quickly, doesn't it? Because this little boy comes over to the UK with everything riding on it, and you play your trial game, and what happens?
Well, it comes to a very, very abrupt end, and it's something that I hadn't taken into account. It's called reality. And you have a dream, and it's a whimsical dream, but you're passionate and you love it, and your parents sell up. But then thrown really in at the deep end in the middle of winter in a place called Middlesbrough, with these really hardened Welsh, Irish, Scottish and English footballers all vying for a few coveted spots. And there's a little Aussie bloke with rasta ringlets from the surf. I had surf hair back then, and the reality, really hit home that these kids were far better than me, and I got the roasting of my life off. Back then there was black and white television, no internet, no apps, and no political correctness. So I got told a volley of swear words about my performance and how bad it was and where I should take my bags back to Australia in no uncertain terms.
Yeah.
And it was really, really harsh, but times were harsh back then, and you had to front up. And, what made it even worse is that Jack Charlton said, "You are fundamentally the worst player I've ever seen in my life now back to Australia." And I knew that he was right. Compared to the other kids, I couldn't control the ball, I couldn't pass, couldn't dribble, and I couldn't shoot.
Yeah.
So he wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
And that's when I realised I'd made a big mistake here. And see, I was a good student, and I always, studied for maths and science and English. And I thought, hang on a sec, no, I can't do those things. But I came across this brilliant, sort of simple idea through tears and everything else, that a soccer ball's a perfect object. It doesn't make mistakes. The person making it makes the mistakes. Using it makes the mistakes. And the more you use it, the less mistakes you make.
Yeah.
So then that's when I set about saying, no, this is science and math. This ball doesn't make mistakes. So I started to watch other players, and fortunately, some of the older professionals, a guy called Graham Souness, you may have heard of, Terry Cooper, who was in that World Cup winning team that played for England, left full back.
Right.
They heard about Charlton's roasting, and they took pity on a poor skinny kid from Australia, who had a big heart, and wanted to be a player. So they took me aside and they said, well, look, if you clean our cars and clean our boots, we'll hide you from Jack Charlton, in the old coal shed and in the ditch. And then when you've got enough money, you can go back to Australia, So those blokes looked after me, and that's then when I set out to do a series of soccer homework programs every single day in the Middlesbrough car park, which is quite a famous story, but quite a long one, and I don't know the short version. But that was the next step. I had to phone my parents and tell them what had happened that evening.
Yeah.
And it was the toughest call I ever had to make. It was called reverse charges. You're a lot younger than me, Toggy, so you wouldn't remember reverse charge calls. But you had to make one of those, so they had to accept it was your parents. You had to tell them my parents will pay for it, and they did.
Yeah. And
then Mum came on the phone. She said, "How was your big, trial? Did you land safely?" I said, "Yeah, I've landed. I've had the trial. Jack Charlton was there." "Colin, come to the phone. Jack Charlton." Came in her average there, but so Dad comes to the phone. "What do you say, lads? What do you say?" I said, "Dad," he said, "I'm one of the finest players he's ever seen. He wants me to stay." And I hung the phone up and burst into tears.
Yeah.
The apprentices didn't like me. I'd been told to leave by the gaffer, so why was I still there? Even though I wasn't allowed to train with them, they gave me all of their crap jobs to do. Each day I cleaned the boots, toilets and changing rooms long after they had all gone home. Later, on the cobblestone streets outside the Ayresome Park Stadium and by the light of the gas lamps, I would ask to play in the pick-up games with the scruffy street kids. They were younger than me, but much better than me at football. It was embarrassing. They took the mickey out of me and called me Skippy the Bush Kangaroo, but at least I was actually playing, and at least they didn't hate me. Finally, back in the shed after midnight, I would cry myself to sleep. I realised just how far I was from my home, family and friends. I felt like I was in a kind of jail and desperately wanted to go back home to the warmth of the people who loved and wanted me, rather than a cold and empty Middlesbrough car park.
So very quickly I stood in the corner of this car park next to the Middlesbrough Hospital, actually the back of the mortuary. So
and how old are you at this point, Craig?
I was 15. This was, and I was there on my own, freezing cold in the middle of December, having left Newcastle Beach the 2 days before, which was middle of summer, with all my mates surfing and all the girlfriends.
It just seems unbelievable.
2 days later, I'm on a wet, muddy pitch with rasta hair and all this mud and snow and stuff in my hair, having been told to get back home, and then having to phone my parents, and it was desperation.
It's unbelievable, man, that you're only 15. I mean, it's just I can't even get my head around it, but. The important part of your story, I think, is this point, because the things you taught yourself in that car park are principles and lessons that apply to everyone in life, and it's so inspiring. So can you tell us about what you did in that car park, because it literally transformed your life?
I figured it out, Toxie. I figured out what my downfall was, and I figured out the way around it. And my mum, God bless her, who's still with us, and just full of the joys of the spring. Mate, I think that's half the battle. If you've got good parents, then you've got a good underpinning for what you're going to do going forward. And I love my parents dearly, which comes across all the time. Yeah. I can't talk about them because it gets emotional, so I won't. But there's answer number one. If there's a fundamental underpinning there, and Mum's often said lately to me, she said, the thing with you, Craigus, she calls me Craigus, again, don't know why, but Craigus. She says, you were always your own nanny and your own policeman. She said, we didn't have to do anything to pull you in line or to smack you or to encourage you. And she said, and you're a tough little bugger as well. That's what she said. So there's my mum's instincts. Me, I loved the game so much that I didn't even think about my own woes and, oh, poor me. I was looking at the other players who were my age that were better than me and saying, how do they do that? How do they stop that ball like that? How do they turn like that? Why are they so, crisp? So my I often say I was kind of put in a jail. Yeah. It was emotional jail. It was a cold jail, a jail with no heater. And it was the worst moments of my life, or period. But Togsy, it was the best. It was the purest. It had no problems, no issues. I had one thing to do in life, and that was to be a better football player at night, soccer player at night, than I woke up that morning. And I was waking up at 5 and 6 and jumping out of bed and getting to the training ground and the car park long before the players and the coaches were there. I do 2 or 3 hours on the car park walls, control, pass, dribble, shoot, get the ball, give it, make it cross, chip it left foot, chip it right foot. So I had 3 or 4 hours up my sleeve. I was exhausted by the time they came.
There were only 4 main skill tests to standardise: controlling the ball, passing it, dribbling and shooting. I painted a full-scale penalty box and goal mouth onto the car park floor and up the walls. Within this, I created a mathematical grid with targets to hit, targets to avoid, and targets to pass off. By standardising the variables of distance accuracy time analysis, or DATA, data, and then applying that analysis to the 4 core skills, I had basically standardised my own mistake to attempt ratio and metric. To get better at football, all I had to do was get faster and more accurate at these 4 skills. And now, with the data, I could prove it. This was my hallelujah moment.
If you spend 4 or 5 or 6 hours a day in anything in life, being a cameraman, being an accountant, being an Olympic swimmer, it doesn't matter, or a soccer player, you'll get better and better and better. So those were the fundamental principles, and they made me forget about how cold it is, how lonely it was, how all my mates and everyone else was having such a good time back at Nobby's Beach, Newcastle. And the underpinning was the love of the game, which I still love. I mean, how could you not love getting beat 3-0 by Barcelona? Now, I know you're going to laugh, and you are laughing, but the fact that we got beat 3-0, Togsy, and the fact that we had to score 4 goals against Barcelona at the height of their powers.
And we did it.
I
know.
How could you not love that?
Mate, I had tears in my eyes. It was awesome.
There you go.
And then all of a sudden, Graham Souness pops into your life again, doesn't he? Because he's at Liverpool. And next thing you know, you join this team, and what a journey that was.
Indeed. I think Graham was quite instrumental in the move, in getting me from Middlesbrough to Liverpool, because he's seen how fast I'd figured out the problems and how I was progressing. So what a move. Again, a dream that you would never, ever sort of imagine. If I was a kid here now, and I coach 1 or 2 kids here in Newcastle, I'm trying to start an academy and pass on this hard-earned knowledge.
Yeah.
Just the thought of kids doing it now is a lot easier now. What a journey and what a struggle anybody's got to go through these days to get to the top like that. And Togsy, we go on about Liverpool and being there for so long, but it's just you pinch yourself sometimes. And they used to talk about slapping the Anfield side, and as you go out. I used to think I was in a dream every time I did it, and I was going to wake up and I was going to be playing for Lambton Jaffers or Lake Macquarie Seniors, But no, there I was on Anfield again, and you'll never walk alone. I never got over the fact that I actually became a player. Still, even when I was a player, and I tell stories about that, not for now too long, but even in the Liverpool reserve team, when it first got there, you get stuck in the reserves. And I saw myself in the mirror, and I was transfixed. I couldn't stop looking at myself in the mirror. And Johnny Aldridge or somebody said, Steve McMahon, someone quite hard said, well, wake up yourself. What are you looking at, And I said, I just can't believe that bloke's me, And they started laughing, obviously, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
Found Barnes. Barnes cross. Oh, Craig Johnston. Johnston scores, and this time it counts. Lake. Oh, and Johnston's through. This time he surely is going to make it. 3-0. Barnes from Beardsley. And still Barnes. How did he get that across? Johnston. And, off the line. Johnston. Goal. Craig Johnston put it away after the first shot from Steve Nicol had been scrambled off the line.
Here's Dalglish now in towards Roche. Johnston. Dalglish played a major role in that, and Johnston finished in style.
I want to ask you, as a fan, I can almost have the tears well in my eyes sometimes when they sing You'll Never Walk Alone before the game, the energy in that crowd at Anfield. What's it like for you to be out there when you're kicking the ball around practicing before the game and that's going on?
Oh, mate, you'd be surprised. You are scared to death.
Wow.
You are absolutely scared to death, and you're living on a certain emotion because you don't want to make a mistake. Because yes, they're the faithful fans, but there's a bunch of opposition fans as well. You lose the ball once or twice, right? The crowd are on you, because they don't like it. Both sides, right? So you're petrified of having a bad game and the confidence spiral that goes down. So what you got to do is get ahead of it and be on that confidence spiral that the Liverpool players are so good at, and the first 5 or 10 minutes of the match. So it's like, the whistle's going to start. You cannot switch off. It's intense physically, emotionally, and, mate, you get in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone's trying to hurt you badly. Political correctness out the window. Mate, let me tell you, if you're trying to be clever on the ball, or show off, mate, someone will hurt you badly.
Yeah.
Right? And we always get injured, and you're out for weeks and months, and you lose wages, and you lose your spot.
Right.
So you ask me a simple question, you are terrified.
Wow.
Now and again, when you're on top of it, and everyone's giving you the ball, and you're giving it back, and the magic's come together like it has for Liverpool this season, and like Leicester 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Right? You're winning 3-0, right? And there's 10 minutes to go, and you're at the top end. Then all of a sudden you can look around, you see faces, individual faces in the crowd. You can see the hope in their hearts, literally.
Yeah.
You can hear the song and just go, oh my God, and you just feel that energy. But before the game, there's only one thing you can think about, mate, and that's getting ahead, being faster. I tell you what you're thinking about, getting the ball faster and giving it faster than you ever have.
Wow.
I know, and then moving, right, and running your heart out to then support the third and the fourth ball. Think about it.
Yeah.
And I watched some old Liverpool footage the other day, which I never really got time to do, but it came on YouTube and I was watching, and the electricity that we put into hammering the other people into submission with our work ethic.
Yeah.
To, as I say, give the ball to someone that can play, a la Kenny or Souness or one of those other guys, then making a 50, 60-yard run to make them look good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was all about. Selfishness. Like Leicester and like Liverpool this year, at its highest end.
Well, I wanted to ask you another question about Anfield, and that is that you've just brought up, the energy and the fear you can have about not wanting to make a mistake. But what's it like? Because you scored some ripper goals. I mean, what's it like to run into put a ball in the net at the cop end, and then they scream, and it's Craig Johnston from Australia doing it?
Died and gone to heaven. I haven't done that yet, But I'd imagine because you've actually achieved something. So given the build-up, given the pre-publicity, given your own nervousness and your own failings as a player and a human being at that level, I used to say quite often when I'm coaching kids that I was the worst player in the world's best team, right? But I probably had the best attitude, which is why people like me. So bingo. So when you actually scored, you've contributed to the scoreline, mate. I have said this. You could die a happy man. Why? Because you've achieved in a meaningful way. It was all hard work. It was all for the right reasons. And I guess that's why you have a dream when you're a young kid to do something that's powerful and interesting to other people.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a doctor and an architect were the two things that I was really keen on being until I saw that black and white footage and that silly song, and then it was all over for me. And the movie on Pelé, as well. I saw that cine movie, and I said, Mum, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life.
It's so awesome.
That's what I want to do. I want to be like Pelé and like those guys playing, in England, and it just got me.
Rush in for Morby, and it's there. It's Craig Johnston. Liverpool are in the lead. What a moment for Craig Johnston and his family back in Australia watching it. A lad who paid his own fare to come over here and try his luck in the pro game 10 years ago. What a storybook finish it would be for him if that were to be the winning goal.
Can I just say hello to my mum and dad in Australia and all my mates, because I know they're sitting up watching.
No,
I really want to.
No,
I said hello to my wife before, but they're a long way away and they're sitting up watching.
Before I ask you about when you came back and getting into changing the game with your incredible boot idea, you did the Anfield rap. How did that story come to be? I mean, that's quite a genius little rap song.
Well, it was ahead of its time. Rap hadn't landed in England at that time, but I always loved Run DMC and other things that I was hearing from America, because I travel a lot, even in the off season. I travel a lot, and there was this sort of cult of bad cup final songs in England. Not a cult, they're just a mess of bad cup final songs. I said, okay, wouldn't it be interesting if I could write a rap? And then I had to, what am I going to write about it? And I was going to write about the fact that on that cup final day, did you know, 1986, there wasn't a single Englishman on the field.
Really?
No.
I didn't know that.
Steve McMahon came on. He was the only English player as a substitute. There wasn't a single English player on the field.
Wow. Okay.
So the dressing room was full of accents. So it was a simple idea to write a rap song on accents and how all the Scotsman, the Irishman, the Welshman, the Zimbabwean, the Dane and Aussie would take the mickey out of the two Scousers, who was Steve McMahon and John Aldrich. So, all right, old sound as a pound, I'm custy la, but they're nothing down. The rest of the team ain't got it sussed. We'll have to learn them to talk like us. So that was the Scousers, you know, and then all the others would then come in with their little accents. And that was the whole thing. So,
but you're the biggest football team in the world with characters like Kenny Dalglish and that. Was it an easy sell for you to do the song, or did they think, oh, come on?
You know what? They always thought I was a bit mad because I was. And I was always different, mate. Believe me, I was never a traditional footballer. I was wacky and weird, and so was Bruce, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why they put us in a room together, you know. we didn't, you know, infect the rest of the team kind of thing. But no. I always was writing little speeches or poems or Christmas party songs, you know, and they loved them, and there was always a sense of humour in them.
Yeah.
So, you know, the rubbish that was out there in terms of soccer songs, so they were 100%, you know, go right there. Kruggy was my nickname. It's a bit of a long story, but when I first came to the club, Terry McDermott was there, and I think he recognised that I could be there to take his job kind of thing. So he gave me a nice bit of stick, and he said, oh, well, I said, where are you from anyway? He said, I said, I'm from Australia. He said, oh, so you were born in Australia? I said, no. I said, my parents are Australian, I'm from Australia, but I was born in South Africa. Well, make your mind up. I said, no, I'm born in South Africa, but I'm Australian. He said, so you're a Krugerrand and a kangaroo, you know, across. And I said, no. He said, well, I'm going to call you Kruggy. And I said, I don't like that. And the whole team went up, yes, exactly. The moment you say it like that. So anyway, Krug is my nickname. So anyway, they used to say, Kruggy, write us a little song. So I'd write a song about this or that or the other, you know.
Well, that song ends up going in the charts, right? Didn't it get to like number 3?
Yeah, it did. It did. And had we not lost against Arsenal in the League Cup final and had Madonna not had the song Like a Virgin, it had been number 1.
Alright, all those sound is a pound. I'm custy la, but there's nothing down. The rest of the lads ain't got it sussed. We'll have to learn them to talk like us.
Well, I'm rapping now, I'm rapping for fun. I'm your goalie, the number 1. You can take the mick, don't call me a clown. Any more lip and you're going down.
Alright, Ace, we're great, me and you. But the other lads don't talk like we do. No, they don't talk like we do la. We'll have to learn them to talk proper.
You two scousers are always yapping. I'm gonna show you some serious rapping. I come from Jamaica, my name is John Bonnet. When I do my thing, the crowd go bananas.
How's he doing the Jamaica rap? He's from just south of the Watford Gap. He gives us stick about the north of divide. Cause they've got the job. Yeah, but we got the side.
Well, I came to England looking for fame. So come on, Kenny man, give us a game. Cause I've sat on the bench, paid my dues, my fees. I'm very big down under, but my wife disagrees.
They've won the league, bigger stars than Dallas. They've got more silver than Buckingham Palace. No one knows quite what to expect when the red machine's in full effect.
We start talking about your ideas because, I mean, this is really important in your story, and the fact that you have this idea to enhance a footy boot, and you would think, looking back on it, it's a simple, wow, that's a great idea, let's do it. But again, like what happened to you at Middlesbrough, you had to go through years of making that idea work, didn't you? Like, everyone said no.
Yeah, everyone said no. including those close to me, because it was costing more and more money. And funny enough, when I came back to Australia, I had a TV show called The Main Event,
Yep.
Which was prime time, Channel 7, 6:30 on a Sunday night with Larry Emder.
Yep, I remember
it. And that was killing the ratings. You know, it was a prime time TV game show. And again, people said, well, how does a soccer player write TV game shows? And I said, well, I'm an inventor. You know, I'll always be an inventor.
Yeah.
I figured out how to be a soccer player. What was driving me underneath is I knew that the concept of a rubber shoe that gave more spin and language to the ball, whether you chip it or swerve it, that was a massive upside for the game, because I'd spent my whole life in the game addressing the ball and figuring out what part of foot on what part of ball to what effect. In fact, the science of getting a ball from A to B, and I went right into the science.
Leather's a wonderfully comfortable material, but I feel that there must be a better substance than leather to get friction between the boot and the ball, especially when it's wet. And I just thought, well, rather than having a leather glove on your foot, right, what if you could have an instrument that was specifically designed to be a performance tool for getting the ball from A to B in terms of swerve, dip, bend, velocity, accuracy? Because that's all a shoe should be, right? And this revelation that, hey, this is science, was a wonderful awakening. Yay.
Good.
So I knew that the rubber would engage with the butadiene in the rubber would engage with the polyurethane to give it more swerve.
So what did it feel like for you to be successful with that? Because, I mean, that boot saved Adidas as a company. It became the biggest boot in football history. And again, it's come from you.
You know what? The one word that came to mind is relieved, because the hard work and the commitment and the sacrifice, I sort of touched on that before. So I had to leave the Main Event because I knew that, which was very successful all over the world. BBC One, 6:30 on a Saturday night. A chap called Chris Tarrant was the host.
Wow.
So I had it in Telefrance too.
Yeah.
I had it in Switzerland on the main broadcaster there. NBC in the States optioned it. So I had the Main Event in 5 countries. But the boot was pulling me more and more. This is it. And it took so much hard work. Adidas knocked it back. So did initially. So did Puma. So did Reebok. So did Nike. And the trick to it was I knew it worked, so I took it in the snow. This is a little bit like the Middlesbrough story to Bayern Munich, and said to Franz Beckenbauer, "Please, Mr. Beckenbauer, help me. You've got to try this boot on and kick it, and tell me what you think." And I had a little video camera, and I filmed what him and a couple of his mates had said. And whatever they said, my German's not very good. But whatever it is, I then took that back to Adidas, and they said, "Oh, you're the guy that with the ping pong boot, We've said no already." I said, "No, it's the Kaiser. You've got to listen to the Kaiser." "What's he saying?" I said, "I don't know." Gave them the video, right? And within 2 minutes, they all standed up and they all started clapping. They said, "This is the future of our business, right here, the rubber shoe."
It all started with this guy, the OG Adidas Predator. Now, the idea behind Predator originated from former footballer Craig Johnston, who wanted a football boot inspired by the grippy texture on a table tennis bat. So he developed the idea and later sold it to Adidas, who engineered these aggressive rubber fins into a kangaroo leather upper. And it gave you tons of swerve and power in your shot.
When the Predator came into the market first off, it was something different. It was something that no one had ever seen before.
People see what they see and they don't see change. And I think if you're an innovator, you're always living in 20 years' time. And mate, I've had a lot of things that haven't worked, by the way, and I've been, successful. And I've had some real crashes, like bankruptcy crashes, and no money, and can't feed myself and my kids.
Wow. So
I've had all the lows as well, and I think the story needs to come out in a good way, Togsy. And tentatively, I'm calling it Triumph, Tragedy, Legacy. Because I think it's important to to leave something behind for the kids going forward based on all the hard-earned lessons that you learn. Otherwise, what's the point of living that tough life if you can't leave some tough love behind?
Yeah.
That's look, this is where we were then, and this is how to get things done, and this is how to be a happy person. So I've always, and I think I've got it off my dad, I had this desire to be happy and bring happiness as well.
Like it's been a long while since we've been here, mate. How many years is it?
When he left Liverpool, Johnston went back to join his family on the shores of Lake Macquarie in Australia. This is where he'd grown up. Every morning his dad would drop him off at school an hour early so he could practice kicking a tennis ball against the wall. Get to know the ball, his father would tell him. Make it talk to you. Colin Johnston had been a bit of a player himself. Keen to see his son make the grade, he set an exacting, if rather old-fashioned, training regime.
Yeah, Dad used to wake me up with a plate of steak, eggs, chips, beans, tomatoes, mushrooms. He can say, you'll never be a footballer unless you eat that. Imagine how good I could have been. You probably ruined my career.
I wouldn't say that. You did all right, my old son. The food couldn't have been that bad.
There's nothing better than a laugh, Togsy, and I feel that's been taken away from us. And, one of the joys, the biggest joy I'll never, ever forget in my whole life in living in Liverpool is those people are unique in that they live for a laugh. In Liverpool, it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter who you play for, right? Doesn't matter how rich you are or well-dressed you are, what your car is. If you can make someone laugh, that's your currency, and you're right up the pecking order.
Wow.
You can have all the money in the world, and if you're a boring old bullshitter, mate, you're at the bottom of the pecking order.
Wow.
You can make people, and I love that about the Scousers. I think that's why we reacted so well to Shankly years ago, and I've said this, and I think that's why we're reacting so well to Jurgen. He's become our new Messiah, our new Shankly.
Yeah.
And the man's German, and he's got a sense of humour.
Yeah.
It doesn't come about too often, I say that nicely. I lived in Germany, get away with it. So I think that's half the battle, And the fun, I think back to the Liverpool days and the glory days, and Bruce Grobbler, right? The fun we had in that dressing room just made coming to work a joy, and I think it's a fundamental underpinning of why we were so successful, because we lived and we laughed and we loved each other and what we were doing. We're all gentlemen, all knew how to behave.
Yeah.
I just feel blessed to have this wonderful life, and I just, hope I can tell the story before I pop off and it's lost forever, just to pass some messages on to the young kids going forward.
Well, that's the thing. I was just going to ask you that because you've touched on it in different bits of your answers, but what advice would you give young people about chasing dreams? Doesn't have to be football, like just in life, what would you say?
I'd say be careful, because my dream could have gone belly up, I'd say, it's not just about being tough and hard-nosed and hard-skinned and resilient. It's about being cleverer, and it's about being a good kid, and it's about being the best you can be. But it's your story, and you're writing it now, and you'll be writing it then, and you'll be writing it then. Then you'll look back one day just before you pop off, and you'll be reading it back and saying, I wonder if I can change that. So look at life as if it's your story, and what do you want to read to other kids when you're that old, right? So they can learn and be better people, and happier people, more content people. And I wanted to be the best player in the world, but I failed miserably. What I did do is I ended up playing for Liverpool, and as I said, I was the worst player in the world's best team, but the lads loved the effort I put in, right? And that's why they welcomed me into the team. So I didn't reach my dream, but I did the best I could possibly be. Yeah. So that would be my advice to kids: is that fairy tales, 1,000 to 1 don't come true. But if you set your sights very high and you try your very hardest by being, first of all, a good, smart kid that's good to get on with, right? But then you figure out the problems every single day, then that's how to achieve your dreams, or very close.
Well, it's exciting times at the moment. I'm sure you're following all the footy. You've got the Champions League final coming up, and it's a chance to win a big trophy. But, I mean, in your day, you literally didn't have enough room in your pockets, right, from all the medals?
Funnily enough, you asked me about my pockets.
Yeah.
Well, I just had a couple of shipments arrive because I'm spending more time here with Mum in Australia.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you some stuff that's just arrived.
Wow.
Okay. So first of all, can you see that? Oh, you know what? I'm going to bring the camera down lower.
Oh, there you go. Oh, my God. There you
so
go.
very, very quickly, you asked me a few questions. See that? That was the original, one of the original prototypes.
Wow.
Made of one-hit injection rubber boots with the traction sole and the upper. One of the original ones taken to Adidas as a prototype.
Yeah.
Number 2, this was the prototype that I gave to David Beckham, just so he could get his all clear with it.
Wow.
You see that? Yeah. So I got probably 1,000 of these. And again, you see that?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, the ridge there.
No, I'll show you just there. You probably can't see it, but it actually says Johnston.
Oh.
So the ones had my name there, and also in the traction sole, it's written there as well. So just so you know, if someone tries to sell you a dodgy one. But back to this one, and bringing this one back out, you asked me a question about Liverpool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Oh, wow.
Look what I found there. Can you see that?
Man. That is epic.
So that's FA Cup winners medal. I'll say. FA Cup winners medal.
Yeah.
There's 5 league championships in there.
I wish we had one of them now.
Yeah, there's 5 of them. There's a League Cup, Milk Cup there.
Wow.
And here's what we need. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, Champions League.
Champions League medal right there.
Wow. Well, awesome rewards for epic effort.
Yeah, there's a couple of losers medals there as well, but I say losers, runners up. I didn't mean losers.
Yeah. I wasn't around for the Shankly era, you know. I only know about him from the love that we get now and the documentaries and YouTube, and he seemed like you said, very like what Klopp seems to be now for our modern era. But do you think the way you played the game, I reckon Jurgen would have loved you?
Well, you know, I'll tell you a word that's highly, highly underestimated. It's enthusiasm, and I had buckets of enthusiasm to learn, to get better, to be more relevant. And, you know, that's what Jurgen shows. He shows real enthusiasm for everybody's benefit and clearly not his own. So Shanks was, you know, it's a funny word, but he was more intellectual about it. You know, he had hidden messages. Whereas I think Jurgen's written in his face, you know, I love you and you love me and we're going to conquer the world. Shankly's words, give me an army full of Scousers and I'll build you an army to conquer the bloody world. That's what he said. And you know, in writing an article the other day, I see Jurgen has done that. And we've had some great managers in between the two. And Kenny I'm thinking of is the most... I also always compared Kenny with Shanks, you know, and they're the same kin as well, the Scotsman with that hard grit and determination. But I think Jurgen's got also, you know, he's got a boyish enthusiasm and love, but, you know, the Germans are methodical and they're smart and they're tactical, and he's all the above. You know, he's methodical and he's enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And you know, I must say that was me as a kid. I was those two things. One last big thing to show you. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready for this? I'm on a little like a tripod here.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. This is my little Telecaster there.
Nice.
You see that?
Yep.
Okay, but everyone's got one of them. Watch this.
Hey!
How good is that?
That's awesome, man. Liverpool surfboard.
Yeah.
Skip.
Stay there, and I'll bring it. I'll bring it closer. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a story behind that, but what do you think of that?
That's awesome, man.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we'll run out of time, so I'll tell you the story about that surfboard later.
All right, man. Good to see you, Craig. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
All right. One thing to say. Come on, you Reds.
Yes, go Liverpool. All right, mate. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.
See ya. Bye, mate.
So there you go. What an absolute thrill to have him on the show. Such a legend, and I think it's best to go out with the great man in his own words.
I played 271 games for Liverpool, scored 40 goals, won 7 trophies. This is my home. But this is much more than just another football club. This place is different. This is special. We've won more than most. Silverware others can only dream about. But it's not about that. It's about legendary players, the best there's ever been. And it's about people. It's about us. Liverpool isn't a club, it's a family. Wherever we are in the world, we are one. The COP unites us. We are Liverpool.
Liverpool straight at the start of the second half on the break here with Rush. And Johnston!
And when you are Liverpool, you'll never walk alone.
And we've had 2 goals. The second half. Walks in the middle and Johnston 2. Must be a goal, yes! Very conclusively. Oh, he's done well here is Craig Johnston. What a good finish.